At 6:20 a.m., the Caribbean looked almost unnaturally still. Then the sea itself seemed to lift. From the dark water below, a Virginia-class U.S. submarine weighing 7,800 tons and valued at nearly $5 billion rose into view less than 2 nautical miles from Venezuela's patrol line. There was no distress signal, no warning, only the sudden sight of a massive black hull slicing through the early light. For 3 long minutes, the Venezuelan Navy could do little but stare as one of the most sophisticated submarines in the world appeared in a place no one expected. Beneath the surface, its reactors ran with quiet precision, each powerful enough to supply energy to around 2,000 homes. And yet it remained still, like a hunter making its presence known without making a move. In that moment, one message spread across the region with unmistakable clarity. The United States could show up anywhere, at any time. This was no accident. It was a calculated signal, a carefully staged display that shifted the atmosphere of power in the southern Caribbean. Venezuelan radar had picked up nothing. Their sonar had detected nothing. The real question was never how the U.S. managed it, but why. And the answer would rattle every Navy paying attention that morning. On the horizon, a Venezuelan Guayquerí-class patrol vessel pushed north at 12 knots. Its crew, halfway through a routine shift and dulled by repetition, froze at the sight before them. Radar screens flickered with interference. The sea they thought they understood no longer felt familiar. On the American side, there was no chaos, only control. Inside the submarine's command center, voices stayed low, checklists were followed, and green console lights reflected off calm, focused faces. Every action was measured. Every movement was intentional. This was not concealment. This was controlled visibility. The mission was not to disappear, but to be noticed by those who believed they were alone. Just 20 minutes earlier, the Venezuelan vessel had been little more than a distant trace in the submarine's sonar record. Now, with the American sail breaking through the dawn, both ships occupied the same narrow strip of tense, shimmering water. Venezuela's watch officer fumbled over the radio, trying to confirm what their own systems still struggled to explain. On board the submarine, the captain issued a brief command. One active ping. A single pulse moved through the water like a heartbeat, sharp, cold, unmistakable. Across a 100-mile radius, signal analyzers would have lit up. That sound carried more than presence. It carried meaning. We are here. We have been here. In those few seconds, procedure became everything. No weapons were presented, no torpedoes were prepared. Every onboard system remained in observation mode. Set condition 3, the combat officer said quietly. Record all emissions. On the other side, Venezuelan sailors rushed toward the 76mm deck gun, but stopped before loading. Their radar swept across the American sail, careful not to cross the line into fire control mode. Even so, the U.S. crew recorded it all. Every fluctuation, every unstable frequency, every hesitation measured down to the second. Timing under pressure cannot be faked, and timing becomes intelligence. Then came bridge-to-bridge communications, calm in wording, tense in meaning. Unidentified vessel, you are operating near Venezuelan territorial waters. Identify immediately. The response came back just as steady. This is a United States Navy vessel conducting lawful transit in international waters. No hostile intent. On paper, it sounded routine. In reality, it was a contest of tone, discipline, and restraint. Venezuela projected sovereignty. The U.S. projected control. Both sides understood how much could depend on a single phrase delivered the wrong way. 3 minutes passed, an eternity when two steel machines face one another at sea. The Venezuelan radar began to struggle under the pressure. Crew members shouted. One sailor lifted binoculars. Another waved both arms as if to send a message without words. We see you, now move on. Inside the submarine, the electronic warfare officer logged the response time. 2 minutes, 47 seconds from first contact to coordinated reaction. No celebration, no expression, just the upload of data to Southcom, encrypted and time-stamped for later review. Every frame of video, every radar reflection, every second of human reaction became part of a larger intelligence picture. One focused less on firepower and more on composure under pressure. By now, the sea looked almost cinematic. Sunlight flashed across dark metal. Heat shimmered along the horizon. To the Venezuelan crew, it felt like a direct challenge. To the Americans, it was a test. One side saw an intruder. The other saw a response. The submarine remained motionless, allowing its presence alone to reshape the story unfolding on the surface. No missile launched, no shot fired, and yet the psychological impact landed harder than any visible escalation. In Washington and at the command center aboard the USS Tripoli, analysts watched the live feed as the scene unfolded in real time. They tracked everything. Radar sweep intervals, the rhythm of radio calls, even the way the Venezuelan crew positioned themselves on deck. What started as an unexpected appearance had turned into something far more revealing. A silent diagnostic, a pressure test disguised as restraint. This was modern coercion in its clearest form. No explosions, no visible force, only precision, patience, and total control. The Venezuelan sailors tightened their grip on their helmets and kept staring. They were facing something they could neither anticipate nor stop. And that feeling of helplessness was the real weapon. By 6:45 a.m., the American submarine dipped forward and slipped back beneath the blue with almost surgical elegance. For a moment, all it left behind was a trail of bubbles shimmering on the surface before fading into nothing. The Guayquerie drifted slightly to starboard, its crew breathing shallowly, eyes fixed on empty water. The sea looked calm again, but the signal remained, lingering like static in the mind. You were observed, you were evaluated, and you had no idea until the moment had already passed. The Caribbean appeared peaceful once more, yet something had shifted. The question now was what came next. Maneuver, pursuit, or withdrawal, whatever followed would shape more than pride. It would shape perception, control, and influence. At 7:03 a.m. in the Southern Caribbean, the Virginia-class submarine was already gone beneath the thermocline, but its presence still pulsed through the moment like an aftershock. On the surface, the Venezuelan patrol ship, Guayquerie, pushed ahead through its own uncertainty. The alarms had stopped, but the strain had not. Crew members swept the horizon with unsteady binoculars, as though expecting the submarine to rise again off their beam at any second. Every sensor operator, every sailor on deck could feel the invisible pressure settling over the ship. Inside the American submarine, the silence was deliberate. The captain leaned over the control table, eyes locked on the patrol ship's trace above. "Maintain shadow depth. Track bearing 243, he ordered. Around him, the sonar team worked in near whispers, logging cavitation frequencies, propeller harmonics, and acoustic signatures the Venezuelans likely did not even realize they were transmitting. Every sound mattered. A loose chain, a shift in engine rhythm, another radar sweep. Everything became intelligence. Aboard the Guayquerie, the Venezuelan captain faced a choice he had trained for in theory, but never in reality. Confronting a visible threat was one thing. Facing something that surfaced, signaled, and vanished without firing a shot was something else entirely. His communications officer urged him to report to headquarters. "Transmit everything," the captain said, his voice measured and cold. "Mark the coordinates. I want that contact on record." Moments later, encrypted bursts shot skyward from the ship's communications array, bouncing through satellites toward Caracas. The U.S. submarine captured every bit of it. Below the surface, the American communications specialist allowed himself the faintest smile. "They're reporting us, sir." The captain's answer came without emotion. "Good, let them. Let's see what they do next." At 7:08 a.m., the Venezuelan ship accelerated to 25 knots, carving a tight intercept arc across the water. The submarine followed every move with exacting precision. From below, it did not look like a threat. It looked like data. Venezuela wanted to project defiance. The United States wanted to study discipline under strain. The two vessels occupied the same ocean, but in entirely different worlds, one exposed to sight, the other protected by silence. The rules of engagement still held. No weapons fired, no escalation, no lights. But at that distance, even restraint felt confrontational. The Guayquerie's 76mm gun began to turn slowly forward. It was not locked, not aimed in a firing posture, but the meaning was obvious. A statement in steel. Inside the submarine, the weapons officer noted it without changing tone. Main gun elevated, bearing shift confirmed. No illumination. In other words, not a threat yet, but close enough to matter. Then the air above changed. From the east came the low, unmistakable thrum of rotor blades. A U.S. Navy MH-60R Seahawk, launched from a destroyer 30 miles away, was moving into the area. Its sensor pod caught the morning light as it swept toward the scene, recording everything below. The helicopter stayed clear of Venezuela's claimed airspace, holding precisely to the legal boundary, but its arrival added a new layer of pressure. The Guayquerie's crew understood immediately. The situation was tightening around them. Once again, bridge-to-bridge communication broke the silence. "American vessel, you are violating proximity protocol. Turn away immediately." The submarine gave no reply. Instead, the Seahawk answered for it. "Guayquerie, your course is converging with a U.S. naval unit conducting lawful operations. Alter heading to 200 degrees to maintain safe separation." What came back was silence. Then a burst of static. The Venezuelan captain's face tightened with frustration. "Maintain course," he snapped. They wanted the Americans to yield first. At that point, pride had begun to outweigh caution. Inside the U.S. submarine, the sonar chief watched the situation unfold through raw data rather than direct sight. Engine RPM climbed. Rudder inputs shifted sharply. Radar pulses began arriving at nearly twice the previous rate. Every sign of strain revealed more than any radio transmission could. Stress has its own language, and the Americans were recording every word of it. At 7:11 a.m., the patrol ship edged closer, 2.1 nautical miles at closest point of approach. That was close enough to matter. Inside the submarine, the command team weighed two options in low voices. Surface again as a warning, or sink deeper and let the patrol ship wear itself down. The captain chose discipline over drama. We hold depth. Let them blink first. Above, one of the Guaycari lookouts spotted a shimmer on the water, a brief disturbance, maybe a periscope, maybe only reflected light. It was enough to trigger another wave of alarm on the bridge, but this time, the sea offered nothing else. The American submarine did not rise, it did not signal, it did not react. The ocean itself became the shield, and silence became more unsettling than any visible show of force. For 3 long minutes, both crews existed inside a strange kind of confrontation. One fought less with machinery than with composure. The Venezuelans cycled through emergency procedures, checked bearings again, then eased back to 18 knots. A message flashed across their system: return to patrol route. Technically, the encounter was ending. Psychologically, it was only beginning. Inside the submarine, the collection phase was complete. The mission officer transmitted an encrypted burst through the buoy link. Radar sweeps, communication tempo, reaction times, maneuver patterns, all of it sent to U.S. Southern Command in Florida. Only then did the captain let out a slow breath. Surface warfare data collection complete. Maintain stealth mode. Prepare for egress. No one celebrated. No one relaxed. The crew understood what this kind of operation meant. This is how modern rivalries escalate now. Not with dramatic openings, but with observation, calculation, and controlled restraint. As the submarine moved deeper, its hull disappeared into the thermocline, swallowed by layers of colder water. Above, the Guaycari kept searching, but the sea had gone empty again. The wake behind the ship looked peaceful. The tension left behind would remain far longer. And still, not a single shot had been fired. That is what makes modern deterrence so unsettling. The side that stays calm often shapes the outcome long before any open clash begins. By 7:20 a.m., the Caribbean sun had climbed high enough to burn away the last of the morning haze, but the strain in the region had not lifted. The Venezuelan patrol ship Guaycari continued at 19 knots, scanning a sea that looked deceptively quiet. No confirmed contact, no visible target, only silence. Yet every sailor on board knew the same thing. Somewhere beneath those waters, a machine worth $5 billion had seen them, studied them, and vanished without consequence. The encounter itself was over, but the impact spread quickly through command briefings, encrypted messages, and closed-door assessments that the public would never fully hear. For the U.S. Navy, the mission's value was not measured in destruction, but in information. The submarine had captured radar intervals, communication tempo, and crew reactions down to fractions of a second. Each report sent to Southern Command added another layer to a larger picture of readiness and behavior across the Southern Caribbean. Above the surface, inside Venezuela's Situation Room in Caracas, the mood was far less clinical. It was sharper, more emotional. They surfaced inside our envelope, one officer said. That's a violation. Another pushed back. International waters. Barely. But by then, the technicalities no longer mattered. The political meaning had already taken shape. It was a display of American confidence, clear, disciplined, and impossible to ignore. A reminder that deterrence no longer depends only on weapons. Sometimes it depends on posture, on timing, on the ability to remain calm while everyone else is forced to react. Why did the United States do it? Because visibility can be a weapon of its own. By surfacing within range of Venezuelan sensors, the submarine did more than challenge detection systems. It tested resolve. It drew out reaction times, radio habits, and command structure in real time, all without crossing into open conflict. No strike, no launch, no exchange, just pressure applied with precision. For the Pentagon, that kind of intelligence is immensely valuable. For Caracas, it is deeply embarrassing. And that contrast is exactly what gives the moment its force. A Virginia-class submarine among the most elusive and capable vessels in the U.S. fleet was designed for displays of power like this. At 377 feet in length and displacing close to 7,800 tons, it carries 12 vertical launch tubes and can deploy up to 40 Tomahawk cruise missiles, each with extraordinary reach. But on this day, none of that firepower was used. Its strongest instrument was silence, calm, controlled, and far more unnerving than any blast. Inside Washington's strategic circles, this kind of operation is often understood as stealth made visible. Appear, trigger awareness, then disappear. It delivers two messages at once. To allies, it signals reliability. To rivals, it exposes fragility. Each time a submarine reveals itself near an opposing patrol, it strengthens deterrence through perception rather than destruction. The purpose is not open confrontation. The purpose is to remind every radar operator across the region that the US Navy can arrive wherever it chooses, whenever it chooses, and leave just as easily. Back on the deck of the Guaycari, sailors remain under the rising heat, eyes fixed on the stretch of horizon where the submarine disappeared. Radar continues its rotations. Sonar keeps pulsing, routine slowly resumes, but the ocean no longer feels the same. It no longer feels familiar. It feels like a surface concealing something unseen. The Venezuelan captain orders a full systems reset, yet he already understands the deeper problem. His ship is built to answer what it can detect, not what can move around it unnoticed. Hours later, the American submarine moves east at 20 knots, maintaining complete radio silence. Inside, the crew quietly completes post-mission documentation. The captain adds one final line to the command log. Encounter successful, zero escalation, full data recovery, strategic objective achieved. The submarine will not become a headline. Its route will never appear on any public tracking record. But what was learned during those 3 minutes of visibility will influence military briefings long after the sea itself has gone calm. Venezuela now knows its coastal surveillance has weak points. Every navy in the hemisphere understands that the United States can move through those gaps and reveal that fact only when it chooses. This is the modern shape of maritime dominance, moments that begin and end in silence, where the first move is psychological and the real battleground is perception. American planners call it pressure shaping, control through observation, influence through patience. It is confrontation without open battle. But it still reshapes the strategic map. For the Venezuelan crew, the day ends with relief, confusion, and something even heavier: doubt. Doubt about what else may be out there beyond detection. Doubt about how command will explain what happened. Doubt about whether the next patrol can ever feel ordinary again. For the Americans, it ends with quiet satisfaction and a familiar lesson. In modern conflict, the first and most powerful advantage is not firepower, but awareness. So as the Caribbean settles back into stillness and public attention moves on, one question remains. Who truly holds the advantage? The side that acts first or the side that never has to?